Hi and welcome Beyond the Racing Line, the Formula 1 podcast by fans, for fans. It is on again. We're back to close quarters racing, and we saw it in spectacular fashion at the Austrian Grand Prix on the weekend. We're halfway through our triple header, which is a beautiful time of year for us, and we're actually recording in a really strange time slot. We couldn't get together last night, but today's Wednesday, isn't it, Tristan?
It is Wednesday.
Sometimes you've got to remind yourself when you're on holidays.
What day it is.
Yes. We're recording at lunchtime with a coffee instead of a beer, which is a bit unusual.
It is a little bit unusual. I feel like if I had got here an hour later...
Oh, particularly with the kind gifts.
I know, it was 11:30 and you sort of...
Yeah, it was close. It was touch and go, but I've decided I'd behave myself, but it has ticked over 12 o'clock in our time. Anyway, enough about that. Apologies for not getting it out last night, but hopefully a 12-hour delay won't cost us too much or cost you too much. Wowee, we're back to racing in close quarters, Tristan.
We are.
How was your first initial reactions to the big incident?
My first reaction was it was just a little bit of a racing incident, to be honest. And I've watched it religiously in the last 3 or 4 days, just hearing everyone's side of the story. On boards, I found myself glued to the post because I wanted to hear from both of them for the first time ever. Like, usually I tune out as soon as the podium's done, and I'll tune into that later on. I like to read instead of watch. But yeah, I found myself tuned into the post and watch Ant's analysis, which I thought was very, very good. I found it really difficult to not want to latch on to a bias side of the argument. Like, really made a conscious effort not to jump down that path. And even today, I think Damon Hill came out and he's got a very one-sided view of it. And I got a little bit annoyed at Ted's comments post-race.
Oh, see, someone else had mentioned that. And
really frustrated me, though. So I thought Andre Stella spoke beautifully, but just at a personal level, I don't know. I think I'm still sitting in the racing incident category.
Well, we'll get
for me. We'll dive into it more.
Did it add to our season, or has it taken away from our season? Because I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that they feel like they're disappointed.
I'm not.
Do you think it's added to the season or taken away from the season?
I think it's added to the season, because now that we've got McLaren as the absolute contender at the moment, keeping in mind Max is still like nearly 80 points ahead in the championship. He's extended. It's borderline going to be nearly 100-point margin soon, and it's gonna take a long time to reel in. But I mean, like, certainly it's there. Like, there is a fight there. It hasn't reached the heights.
I think knowing that Norris isn't just going to lie down, Max has still got it in him, which I don't think anyone's surprised about.
I don't think so.
I think it all just adds to the theatre of the season.
I think so too. There's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of people out there wanting to latch onto Lewis, Nico.
Oh yeah,
2016. Like, we want to grab that, and
all the Max and Lewis.
And I think the friendship that these two have is what a lot of people are grabbing onto, and it's like almost that want to see it implode.
Well, I think it adds that different element, whereas like Lewis and Nico were never mates. I mean, at the start they were. Growing up together, they certainly were. But yeah, I'm not convinced that they ever were. I think they had a working relationship.
Yep.
Max and Lewis certainly haven't been mates. I mean, there's not many mates in Formula 1. You do,
it's not a lot.
And
like,
people do hang to them, because there are very few of them. I mean, famously, Alonso and Webber were good mates.
Yeah.
And that used to get brought up a lot. And I think the reason it used to get brought up a lot is because there aren't many genuine friendships. Now, they've both tried to play down this friendship a little bit.
Yep.
I think in case something like this happens, but I think genuinely they are pretty good friends.
I think so too. Yep. I listened to sort of recently, Seb gave an interview about his relationship with Lewis and how prior to Baku and the brake test incident, that the relationship was never really there, and that he took full ownership of that later. And then that was the point where their relationship became really, really strong. Yep. We saw glimpses of that in Australia, and you know, when there was always at times where Seb would jump in and defend Lewis in a press conference, or you know, would always be at the front supporting his extracurricular activities, for a better word of it. So I don't know, just
It's interesting. It's just I just feel like it just adds that extra interesting element.
I think it does.
What's going to happen next?
A little part of me, I don't want that to be the narrative for the year.
No.
I don't want it. I really am hoping that on Thursday, when we do the pre-race stuff to Silverstone, that everything's going to be all right. Like, I don't know why, but for this, I really want that to be there. I don't want to see it.
I'm with you.
Become the headline.
I'm with you. I don't need the drama
I
throughout
don't
the
want
season.
the drama,
I just
no.
like that both. I feel like they've both put each other on warning.
Yep.
To say, look, on a track.
Yep.
I'm not going to be an easy beat.
Yep.
On a track, Max hasn't changed. If he's pushed, he will make the hard decisions.
Yep.
And whether that's for better or worse.
Yep.
And I think Norris has shown that he has full intent to race really hard.
Yep.
And so I think that's really fantastic. But I'm with you. I don't want to get to the point where we're in Silverstone and we're seeing an absolute war of words against each other.
No, I don't want that. I don't need it.
That's different.
I just want the really good racing.
Yep.
And look, when you really look back at it and you unpack it all, gee, it was a really minor touch that caused the puncture. And my first thought was Charles and Seb in Brazil.
Oh, see, my first thought was
my first thought.
Nico and Lewis when they first came together.
Yeah.
At the end of, I can't remember what straight it was. It might have been Spa.
Yeah.
But
they did have a coming together as well in Austria, where Nico ran him wide out.
Yes,
wide.
well, maybe that was it. Yeah,
but that was my first thought. With Seb and
but anyway,
Seb and Charles
it's added extra. It
really has.
We've got all the goodies. We'll discuss it more. We'll discuss while we're on it. Was the penalty fair?
Yeah.
10-second penalty fair?
Yeah. Yep.
Why?
Because that is what I guess we've seen in the past with incidents like that, and it's really hard to give. It's magnified when the penalty is given to a dominant car. So if you give that 10-second penalty to a Ferrari or an RB, right? That has a really large impact on those guys. Like let's give that to Sainz and he drops back. Let's give it to Dan. Let's give it to an Aston and they're dead last. But then when you give it to the fastest man in the fastest car, like we've seen with Lewis, they'll work through it because of the equipment that they have to work through it. So it's really hard to say that you've taken someone out, so you're out. I don't know how I feel about that. But the 10 seconds is there. You can't apply a heftier penalty to a faster car. It doesn't make sense. So it's just, that's just how it is. The RB's fastest and Max is fastest, and 10 seconds, while it did impact him.
So he deserved a penalty, because some people have even said that he didn't even deserve that penalty.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Max's opinion is he left racing room.
Yep.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Technically, very minimal.
Yeah, for me, you've got to leave.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like it is the right penalty, even though it doesn't seem like the right penalty. Because what's happened is Max has actually managed to extend his championship lead while pulling off an illegal manoeuvre. And I feel like there's part of me that feels like there should be some sort of bylaw in here, which stops the Schumacher Damon Hill sort of issues going on.
Yeah,
where you can't extend a championship lead if that is a direct result of an illegal manoeuvre. Similar to Magnussen early in the season.
Yeah.
He was pulling off illegal manoeuvres to benefit his team. And I feel like there needs to be some sort of bylaw that says you can't benefit from a championship if it directly results from an illegal manoeuvre. And I think it could be it'd be an interesting one. It'll be a complicated one, but I think it could be written in there. And to say that Max gets disqualified is really, really harsh.
It can get messy.
And it can get really,
What do you do when 13th and 14th come together?
Yep. His crime was moving under braking a couple of times, and the FIA should have been quicker to get out the black and white flag.
There were so many
tricky
prerequisites.
Tricky because they only had the laps are so quick, and so they come back around to that corner so quickly.
Yep.
But I feel like the black and white flag, all of Massey's that I can't stand about what Massey was doing with Formula One at that time.
Yep.
The black and white flag was the best one that he was bringing in, and then he sort of put it away again.
Yep.
The black and white flag would have been perfect in that situation.
Of course it would have.
Because they can see that he's moving under braking, black and white flag, and let the team know why. And that is quite simple, because I feel like when Norris got given his last off the track, I think it was actually caused by Max's braking manoeuvres. he needed to try something a little bit more desperate.
Yep.
So he needed to send it in a little bit more of a hurry.
Yep.
And it was actually caused by Max's manoeuvres. And so I think a black and white flag just takes that desperation out of both drivers there a little bit and lets them fight it a little bit more properly.
I'd love to know if the comms could have come through quicker as well from Red Bull.
Yeah,
to
well,
Max.
they've taken a little bit of ownership around that.
Yeah, to say that, hey, like, he's got 5 seconds. I thought
Would he drive away? Would he drive that 5 seconds away?
No way. No, he wouldn't have driven 5 seconds away.
Oh, well, I would have been...
I think it would have been close.
I was going to say, there is absolutely no way I think that we could say definitely not, because it felt like that McLaren had the speed. There was enough laps, probably, and they were also venturing through traffic, and so it could have got really interesting there.
But my gut feeling says no. It would have been really close, but probably not.
Were any of Norris's manoeuvres inappropriate, do you think, for racing?
I don't think they were inappropriate. It was just, and that's what really, like I said earlier, it really puts me in that category of a racing incident, because like we want hard racing.
Yep.
We've got hard racing. Incidents are going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Dive bombs?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
I think they were, but there was nothing about them that was dangerous or reckless.
If Max had chosen to turn in, like, it's a bit tricky. So the a couple of times, like, I like the idea of, right, we just set the rule. If you're going to dive bomb, you've just got to make the track.
We applaud it when it comes off.
Yep.
So we can't...
So if you're going to dive bomb, you've got to make the track.
Yeah, which Lando did.
Which means you don't have to leave.
Occasion.
You don't have to leave racing room.
Yep.
At the exit of the corner.
Yep, no.
That would mean.
Yep.
Which means that car sort of has to disappear a little bit. Like, it can get a little bit tricky. But
his last lunge where he kept all four on track and ran Max wide, but then Max kept the position. Which, I mean, that was also a factor that
I don't understand how that was allowed to continue.
I think that, and that's another sort of one of those prerequisites.
But is that because he didn't give him racing room on the exit?
I don't think it really... I think when you...
It's hard. It's a tricky situation.
He made the dive bomb down, for a better word.
Kept all four on the track.
To be quite honest, it really doesn't matter, because...
So that would make life so much easier.
But then is that not the keeping the position?
If you make the dive bomb and you can keep your wheels on the track,
then you're good to go.
Then it's legit.
And that's why I felt that at the time.
Yep.
But then Max should have given that spot back, because Lando also came off.
I agree.
But then just gave the place straight back.
Agree.
So, there's got to be comms around that.
Yep.
I didn't think any of his moves were reckless. We applaud Dan for his late braking. When we see a move like that come off, we laud it and admire them for when they do it. So when it goes the other way and it doesn't quite work,
I tend to agree.
We can't go hammering people because of that.
I think the right penalty was there. I think there needs to be a scope for advantage made in a championship situation for an illegal manoeuvre.
I think Lando's learnt a lot from last weekend too. That I don't think what Max did was dangerous in any way, shape or form. There are a couple of little manoeuvres under braking that probably, I don't know, it wasn't dangerous, it wasn't super late. He probably shouldn't have done it because the rules there.
It added the scare.
It did.
To Norris that Johnny Herbert was talking about. Have you seen Johnny Herbert's comments?
No, I haven't seen.
I'm not sure why the hell Johnny Herbert is making any comments given he's a steward.
Yeah.
That's just going down a really dangerous path, because it sounded like there was a bit of bias going in there. But Johnny Herbert said that Max drives to intimidate other drivers.
But then so did Michael Schumacher.
Which is exactly what Johnny Herbert said. And so he said, there's part of me that loves that. So it wasn't necessarily criticism, but he just said, look, we know that Max drives to intimidate other drivers, which is what we talked about really early on in his career, where he is not going to give up position.
Fernando
and he's just going to make it happen. And
recently talked about his pass at 130R in Suzuka, and that he went around Michael, and the reason that he threw it so wide in that infamous pass, and his comment was, he knew that Michael had a wife and kids to go home to. He didn't, so he didn't care that he went around.
That's amazing, isn't it?
And the past drivers have said in reference to Schumacher that when he came behind you, you gave him a little bit more room because you knew the elbows was out. That's what makes a champion, is that you are right on that knife edge, and that's what we want to see. As I said, Lando's learned a lot from the weekend, that it's not like passing for 4th, 5th and 3rd, that when you're up front with a 3-time world champion, like, it's David Coulthard comment was welcome to the front line. And I really resonated with that one. That's what it is. This is a whole different level against Max, which...
Bring it on.
Is that not what we want?
Bring it on.
Like, is that not what we want?
And the salivating nature of all of this is that we could see Lewis in that fight next year. maybe towards the end of this year with the way that car's going.
Yep.
We could see George in amongst it a little bit more.
Yep.
Hopefully Piastri gets it together where he can be involved in it a whole lot more, and that's a conversation we're going to have in a moment.
Yep.
And Charles Leclerc is the forgotten person, who could be amongst it all.
Is still third. In the in the championship.
We've got all the goodies coming up. We've gotten really hot early. I've got a big long opening question, but I'm gonna thanks to Kingsley, but I am gonna slow it down a little bit. He's saying, listening to lots of podcasts, he's talking about like some of the golden eras of Formula One. Yep. He wants to know what makes a golden era, because some people are referring to the 2021 season as the golden era because it was such a season.
Yep.
What makes a golden era in Formula One?
A golden era is where we have multiple race winners, multiple constructors that are there for the fight, and I instantly think 10, 11, 12.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I couldn't agree more. Is it a golden season more in Formula One than era, do you think? Because an era is quite a long time.
You can have one-off seasons that
are
2021
brilliant. Has to be a golden season.
21's a season. Yep. 08's a season.
100%.
09 is as well, in particular. Yep. You've got seasons 16.
Yep.
16 is a golden season. But there are others that are forgotten seasons as well, like 2020.
Absolutely. 2022. 2023.
Yeah.
Do you think that this season
will
be considered amongst those? We've seen some pretty good battles, but we're still seeing that championship leader.
Right now, it's
push out.
It's a good season.
We desperately needed in this incident.
I don't think it's a great season. I think it feels better because of the two that we've just come off. Does that make sense? Like, it's been Max.
What more do you want? We've had a different race.
I don't know that I want
a different
more
race
than that.
winner in Miami, a different race winner in Canada,
Yep.
a different race winner in Monaco. We've had a different race winner,
which is good. It's all good.
Austria.
Tick, 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 tick.
100%.
But right back to what I was saying.
Somehow Max
is still nearly 100 points ahead of everyone.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
In what are we? We've got 14 left. I don't know. Let's give us 7 rounds and we'll see where we are in 7 rounds, which is the halfway mark.
The funny thing is we could nearly have a different race winner out of the 6 potential race winners, possibly 8 potential race winners, in every one of those races, and Max could continue to extend his lead.
That's exactly right, because they can they can start robbing from each other now, can't they?
Yeah,
like Oscar
right, exactly.
and Sainz and Leclerc, and if Lewis gets in it, and George did, with his Stephen Bradbury moment on the weekend.
Yep. It's
So it's good. It's good. It's borderline great, but it's not one at the moment. Not yet.
We need a couple of Max DNFs, don't we?
We've got to hold fire. Yeah.
And not because I'm against Max. That just creates the season.
That's what you need, as I said, because this while the title fight looks to be there.
If we could even remove 2 race wins from he's still 30 points ahead.
Well, even after the weekend, like let's say he finishes second, like we're only 8 and 7 points into it. It's if it's going to take the rest of the year for it to be run down, and that's where it's going to have to be something like Lando wins everything. Max finishes second in everything outside of the sprint, and it's still probably mathematically not going to be enough.
All the goodies coming up.
Lots of goodies.
Straight sprint. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I'll tell you, beer helps me. Sprint race weekend. Thoughts on it for Austria?
Yeah, it was pretty alright.
Pretty decent?
It's pretty alright.
You take it?
Yeah, I'll take it, yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's the most positive I think you've ever been about a sprint race, except for after every time we have a sprint race, and then the next week you go and tell me, no, I don't like them.
It
went well.
It was
I thought amongst the triple header, I thought it added an extra element as well, because the teams are stretched as it is, and then we go and add that extra pressure.
On a standard weekend, I really enjoy watching the F2 and the F3. On a sprint weekend, I find it's too much. I'm not really interested in it, so dilutes those 2 categories. But it was pretty good. It was a good track for it. It's a passing track, like we've said that. Like you can't have sprints at places where you can't pass.
Absolutely.
Like it's got to be on.
Going into the sprint qualifying, think all the way back, we saw a Max into Norris into Piastri, and we thought, oh, hello, McLarens are on here. Get into the race, and things don't quite go as planned for... sprint grid. Oh my goodness, I got sprint grid, sprint qualifyings. Things don't quite go to plan for Norris. He loses that lead at the start. And Piastri... Oh, sorry, no, he doesn't. He has a little battle with Piastri.
Had a little battle.
Nice to see that one.
Yes, Oscar elbows out.
Yep.
Round the outside.
Yep.
Holds on to second. Saw a lot of people moaning instantly post-race. Oh, geez, didn't Oscar rob us of a really good battle? Last time I checked, Oscar can do whatever he feels like on track, and he didn't stop you from enjoying
Norris held
a
up
battle
Oscar
race.
at the start
That's
of the race.
exactly right. So don't turn it the other way and suddenly be like, gee, Oscar robbed us. No, he didn't. Oscar did a brilliant job, and there was a position to be taken. He was second. Those group of people are very lucky not to be featured in Dot of the Day. But just to be like, oh, geez, didn't he run? No, he didn't.
Yeah,
no, he didn't.
I'm with you. Yep, I'm with you.
Yes.
It was a good little battle between the two.
Do you feel like Oscar could race Max better than what Lando is right now?
No, I think Lando's still got that race pace to manage tyres.
I do.
In terms of craft, maybe.
Just something about what we've been seeing from Oscar over the last month plus.
Well, he has the ability to, but he hasn't.
I just feel like... No, but my gut feeling tells me that if that was Oscar instead of Lando on the weekend, that I just think he can do it. And I think just the elbows out at Monaco... He got elbows out here this weekend in the sprint. We saw it a couple of weeks ago too. I just feel like he can.
In terms of close quarters manoeuvring,
I just think he can.
He is showing us that he's involved in that.
So
but he just hasn't quite got that pace to keep the tyres alive.
But the angry will be there when it needs to be there.
Yeah.
But it just, my gut feeling tells me that if that was car 81, that he would have got that done and disappeared down the road.
It wasn't car 81.
No, I know, and I just, geez, we're close to a win, aren't we?
Yep.
I am falling in love with Oscar more and more every weekend.
It's nice.
It's taken me a while.
I think.
And I'm trying not to be a biased Australian because I still love Dan so much.
There's an element of...
But I'm ready.
There's an element of Oscar just warming us slowly, isn't there?
I'm ready to love him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm so ready for that to happen.
Oh, yeah. I think for the first time ever, I sent you a message this week when we're talking about Dan's predicament. I was like, you know what? If he can't be fast in the next few weeks, then fair enough. He's had a good crack at it.
I'm not ready for that, though.
There's a part... No, I'm not.
I'm not ready.
Honestly, I'm not ready either. But there's a part of me that knows that we've got Oscar to fall in love with fully once that happens. So, I'm looking forward to Jack. I hope Jack gets in there.
Jack is as good. I said this a couple of weeks ago. That is as good as done.
Yeah, I hope so.
That is as good as done.
They're sniffing around science now. But yeah. So anyway, but then we go to... Let's keep talking Oscar. Qualifying for the race. He runs wide on a corner, has his lap deleted. McLaren were very upset about it. And they were upset because there was inconclusive proof.
There wasn't. There was a front-on photograph, and that was
there
all
was one from the side, but that wasn't showing enough because shadows were in the way. It was so close, I feel like if McLaren had have actually got their appeal right, which they didn't...
No, it was a little bit sort of half-hearted, wasn't it?
Well, it was a little bit like emotional appeal, and we didn't think this one through. I think if they had got it right, they would have had grounds, because there was no proof that he ran wide.
How many more lines...
Before we get there, though, do you actually think that he did run wide?
No way!
I think
No way!
I think he probably did.
We've got gravel, and he didn't get into the gravel.
No, there was a quarter of his tyre on gravel. But I actually think he probably did run wide, but probably isn't good enough to take a lap away.
No, not probably. It's like look at the rolling starts and the false starts that we've seen across the weekends, and just, how many more lines do we need for track limits? Like, why can we not get this right? Like, why is it...
Hang on.
We saw the introduction of the blue line, and suddenly we're
You know what?
Taking measurements off the blue line.
The worst thing is, they did get it right and chose not to run with it.
I know. It's like we had the gravel.
The gravel was there to maintain that corner.
Yeah.
If you choose to go on the gravel, you choose to go on the gravel. Yeah. Just let it be.
And if he's a quarter in, last time I checked, gravel's slower than what the track is.
They nailed it without choosing to let it happen. So they had the solution ready to go, but anyway. And so for me, McLaren messed up in a big way because they didn't quite get that properly sorted, that appeal. And surely it's someone's job to have that all written up, ready to go, to send it off. They didn't address it to the right people,
Yep.
which baffles me that could be a problem. A, that McLaren could do it, but then the FIA could get so upset about it, and that being one of the reasons that they've rejected it.
Yeah.
But then not to actually bring the proper appeal forward, that's all on McLaren. Come on.
Yeah.
You should know what you're doing here. There's precedence for this to be turned around, and they should have been able to push that properly and find out properly, because there was no conclusive proof, and I think the FIA and the stewards should have been able to prove that had happened conclusively, and then they could have gone on. So, yeah, for me, massive drop of the ball from McLaren. Just felt like emotions took over.
What do you think of the blue line? The addition of the blue line?
But pointless.
Oh,
What's the point? Don't do that.
Do we not have...
The white line is...
We've got white line and we've got track.
And then gravel.
How many more?
If you put gravel in there, forget about it. That is your racing spot. Yeah.
How many more different fancy, like, what are we going to see next week, yeah? Like, what are we going to see? We're going to see
purple line.
Spike-tied lines or things.
Purple lining.
Lines with glass in them. If you get a puncture, you're out. Like, come on.
Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
Like, it's track, it's white line, and it's gravel. It's not hard. And you know what? Half the time when we... And this is... I talk about, like... I hate novelties. Like, the blue line's a novelty. That's a work experience kid solution.
Yeah.
At Formula One. What are we doing here today, Tony? Oh, actually, it's
What
your
if
last
it had
day.
a blue?
It's your last day on work experience. Here you go. I'll give you this corner at Austria. What are you going to do with this one? Let's put a blue line. Brilliant. Here's your $75 for the week. Thanks. See you later. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it wasn't even painted on straight. Did you notice that?
Oh.
It was a bit wonky.
I looked at it and I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But the gravel was the right solution.
Gravel was the right solution.
Let's get into the race.
Who would have thought?
Let's get into the race. Unless there's something else you want to mention about it.
No, we're well into it.
We are well into an episode.
well
What are we,
into
27, and we're getting into the race.
We're well into it.
George Russell picks up the win from nowhere.
The Stephen Bradbury of Formula One.
There was a bit of Stephen Bradbury about it. He was doing fine. He was the better of the Mercedes drivers. Lewis had a penalty which sort of meant that he was completely the better of the Mercedes drivers. I think Lewis was probably in that battle if it wasn't for his penalty.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was piloting that Mercedes in a way that meant that he was there to pick up the pieces.
They looked really good on the hard compound, didn't they? Across the weekend.
Yep.
They looked really, really good.
Yep. And they're not quite at that speed of McLaren and Red Bull. I was a bit worried that McLaren had actually dropped that speed from Red Bull, but because qualifying, Max managed to find like half a second around such a short lap. That was really ominous to me.
It was
worrying.
4/10 after his lap, and it was like cheapest.
Yeah, we're in some trouble here because we've gone back to the bad old days. Yeah. But it turned out it was okay, and they made it work all fine. And maybe they decided that they're going to focus on race pace this weekend.
Yeah.
Because overtaking is possible here.
Absolutely it is.
Which is great. But no, George, pretty decent race. Got the job done. Bradbury-esque. Hamilton, he was driving fairly well. He was looking pretty decent.
They were both looking really good.
Hamilton's penalty came from what did he get his penalty for?
His penalty?
Yeah. God, 3 days and all of a sudden I've forgotten what he got a 5-second penalty for. Was it a coming together with somebody?
I think it was actually. Yeah, it was early on. He had damage early on.
Yeah, that might come back to me throughout the podcast. But they're getting there. Yeah. I actually think they'll be stronger in the next race.
Well, it looks like Ferrari are looking to push through an era upgrade because of the lack of speed that they've got at the moment. So, yeah, I think they've just sort of seen the urgency around that with what Mercedes are doing in their package.
Absolutely. And so Mercedes putting that pressure on has meant that everyone else has had to respond.
Yep. They're definitely third fastest at the moment.
Yep. Thoughts on Oscar's race?
Oscar's race was really good.
Starting from seventh?
Starting from seventh, made a couple of places early, just sat there about. I mean, his pass on Sainz was really good, showed that he had speed at the end of it, showed that he had speed right across the weekend, got caught in the DRS train pretty heavily for most of the race, which, I mean, we saw with about that 6th to 10th spot, which is what they were sort of doing in there. Hulkenberg and K-Mag was sort of corking the bottle at one stage.
Yep.
But then still to finish as high as what they did, obviously with the 2 DNFs out front, make that look a little bit better. But they were brilliant across the weekend too, and I think their qualifying position held up the others behind too. So it was really good, and the second was brilliant, especially after the challenge that he had in the quali, and then the sprint was fantastic too. So it was another really well-rounded weekend.
Did you think that his race was on?
I did. I
really
did, because he made a little bit. I mean, not that we saw it, a little bit like that timer came right in.
Yeah,
and I just thought,
and then it just delayed for 2 laps.
And it did. We had 2 laps.
Traffic.
Yep, 2 laps where it just stalled.
Yep.
And then I just thought,
damn it. He needed those 2 laps not to come across traffic. And then I feel like he would have needed maybe 2 or 3 to get the job done.
And he has fantastic form in Austria too, off his F2 and F3 career. Fantastic form at that circuit. So, it was a really, really good weekend.
I'm excited to see him around Silverstone. I am really excited to see him around Silverstone because tyre management wasn't quite as important here.
There's a high deg circuit.
We found the last at Barcelona that it was important. So I want to see what he's learned come Silverstone.
And Silverstone is going to be a challenge
so,
for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you get that
absolutely.
Right.
So, but no, it was pretty decent. Norris's race weekend.
It was good.
Pretty decent.
It was pretty decent.
Yep.
Still a couple of errors here and there, and I think we sort of magnify them more because he's doing so well. Like the error in the sprint, a little bit impatient. I feel like there's a little bit of impatience to his racing at the moment, and it's that urgency that he's starting to leave wins on the table now.
Yep.
Like, that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, there was a win.
He and the team.
They're there. Yes. But there's a little bit of, we're rushing it, we're trying to be a little bit impatient, we need to get the pass done now.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, they're learning that it's different to race for first than what it is for third, fourth, etc. like that. So, I mean, they'll come, but they've just got to be careful that they don't start leaving too many out there because, as we say, like, you never know when you're going to be back at the top. And they're at the top right now. There's no denying it. They are the fastest car.
Well done to McLaren for responding to my dud of the day. They've fixed up their pit stops this weekend.
Good. That's good.
Yeah, good. It's an important segment for everybody.
What do you think of Stella's comments after the race?
I
thought he spoke brilliantly well. Like the way that he didn't point finger directly, but did it in a real roundabout sort of way.
What do you mean? I thought it was as pointed as anyone.
No, I thought he could have just been like real right between the eyes, but he mentioned the inability to address situations like this from the past and how it can play into this. So I feel like he had one finger pointed at the Red Bull garage, but he had another one pointed at the FIA and the stewards. And just sort of saying, hey, like, you also contributed to what we've got here at the moment as well. I thought he spoke really well. I've not seen a team boss speak so measured and calmly.
I thought it was as pointed as anyone across the weekend.
I thought it could have been really aggressive.
I didn't mind him putting everyone on notice. Yep. That's what it felt like to me. He was like, right, stewards, you're on notice for this one because we're not letting this get out of hand. I blame Michael Massey for everything in 21.
Yep.
For everything, because he let that situation get out of hand.
Yeah.
And while it was made for good racing, we could have had good racing without all the crap that went with it.
Yep.
And so Michael Massey let that whole situation get out of hand.
Yep.
And who knows, because he signed the confidentiality agreement, who knows what sort of instructions he was given. It sounds to me like he was given instructions to let him race, make it as exciting as possible, because we're sick of seeing Lewis wins, which I'll put my hand up. Absolutely, I was in that category as well. Yep. But I didn't want to see it at the stake of, or at the cost of, fair racing. And Michael Massey just let that situation get way out of hand. I don't care. The last race, completely different, because that wasn't on Max. That was all on Michael Massey. And so I feel like what Stella was doing is just putting everyone on notice. The last conversation, which we haven't talked about Red Bull yet, I feel like the lack of responsibility taken from Max, Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, like, there's just no responsibility taken whatsoever from any of them.
Yep.
And it's quite simple. All you have to say is, look, maybe we pushed the boundaries a bit hard today. Or maybe we didn't quite get it right, but geez, it's only centimetres in it.
Yeah.
Whereas they didn't even go to that point of view. They just went straight to blaming somebody else.
Yep.
It just feels like like they just live in their own little fantasy world. It's easy to still go down this line, but just say, look, we didn't quite get it right, but my goodness, surely you can understand how tricky it is for these drivers because it is just centimetres in it. Christian Horner he deflected. None of this is our fault.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just poor form, I think. But anyway, I didn't mind Andrea Stella's comments. He's allowed to come out quite strong. I agree with them pretty much.
Yep.
But I didn't feel like this Max incident was anywhere near what we saw in 21, which was what he was referring to. But it felt like he was just putting everyone on notice that we shouldn't be putting up with this in the future. So, it wasn't. I didn't mind it too much. Carlos Sainz came home in third. Once again, that was a Bradbury third too. He was nowhere near third for the race. He drove okay, but it wasn't anything to write home about. That Ferrari's just lacking that pace a little bit, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
So disappointing. Very Ferrari-esque at the moment.
Yep.
The way that they're just letting their season just sort of drift a little bit. Charles Leclerc, 11th, finished in 11th spot. Thoughts on his race?
Oh, I mean, the incident at the start really impacted his race weekend.
Yep.
Drove really, really well to come back to 11th, as the Ferrari should.
Yep.
It should come back through the field like that. But I think just the short distance of the lap sort of hindered him getting up into the points as well. Lost a lot of time in that first one too. But it was good, but again, the Ferrari is just... It's just not quite there at the moment. It's in fourth at the moment, just in no man's land.
Yep.
Okay. But they'll come through. Well, interesting to see what comes of this new era upgrade.
Yep. Okay. Hang on. Where are we up to? So we're into Haas territory. Thoughts on Haas?
Well, just again, a double points finish. I think best result since 2022 off the top of my head, where I think Mick finished 6th and K-Mag finished 8th as well. Made good progress across the weekend from the sprint to race day. Qualified well. Hülkenberg is by far outracing Magnussen in every way, shape and form. And again, it comes back to the call made at the start of the year. I'm going to constantly refer back to that, where the dumping of Gunther Steiner has just impacted this team in a hugely positive way. The changes that they've made within that team, you can see it's, like we're not looking at them thinking, what are you doing anymore?
They've had some decent results, but it's sort of been manufactured by some cheating from Magnussen.
Sure. Yep.
And so, but this wasn't any of that. This was down to them, on pace. They drove really well. They sort of drove around together a little bit, didn't they?
Yep.
But they drove really well, and I thought it was a really fine effort.
Yep.
Is the concern that Perez is behind Hülkenberg again?
Yes.
Isn't it just? It's just unbelievable.
It's terrible. I mean, saw the photo of damage, which did have quite significant damage in that side pod, which would have hindered him hugely. But we gave him a couple of weeks, didn't we?
It's not like
he shouldn't have qualified where he did.
I was going to say he qualified 8th, so it's not
shouldn't have qualified there.
That wasn't his pace anyway.
No, but shouldn't have.
Yeah, in the sprint race he finished in 8th.
That's just
sprint qualifying. He qualified.
His speed are up.
Where did he qualify?
So
7th. So that was about where he was all weekend. So
but then was still beaten by the Haas.
Yeah, don't show pictures of a hole in a side pod when that was actually your pace anyway.
That's honestly, it's spot on. Qualifying down in 8th for the race, right? So if you look at his quali times in comparison to the Haas, because Hülkenberg qualified in 9th behind him too, right? So in Q1, Sergio did a 105.587. Hülkenberg did a 105.596. Yeah. Ocon's time, which was a 105.574, was quicker, and Dan's time in Q1 was quicker. So Perez, a 105.587 in Q1 was only a 10th ahead of Hülkenberg. Ocon was quicker than him. Dan was quicker than him. K-Mag was quicker than him as well. And then the next one behind that was quicker than him. Yuki was quicker than him as well in a 105.563. So Q1 alarm bells were ringing. Q2 he did a 105.144. But again, like, had some pretty close company in terms of Ocon, Dan, Magnussen, Gasly, and Yuki. Like, a Red Bull should not be that close to those. In comparison to what Max did in the first Q1, he did a 105.3, and then went straight into the 104.4s and a 104.3 as well. Sergio didn't even get close to that. In fact, his Q3 appearance was slower than his Q2 appearance. He did a 105.2.
Jeez, we didn't talk about this enough. Max really found something in qualifying.
Of course he did. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
We haven't seen that from Max for a little while, have we?
No.
Been able to find that extra time.
And we've talked about the pace at the moment. McLaren are fastest, but it's Max that's second. It's not the RB20. It's Max that is the difference. But like we're saying, Sergio should not be that close to a Haas and an Alpine, which was a second and a half off the pace, and then an RB that, across the race weekend, I don't think RB know what they are anymore, to be quite honest. They're either good, they're garbage, or they're working out what they're doing. And that's where the sister Red Bull should never be. It shouldn't be that close.
No. Oh, no.
At all. So, I don't know. Just, honestly, I'm going to give it Silverstone.
Yep.
If it is not qualifying second and finishing second in Silverstone, then that is, for me, that's Sergio on notice again.
Yep.
Because you cannot be doing that. Like we said a couple of weeks ago, Max is going to need a rear gunner, and it's getting to that point where he needs someone now.
A few people have sort of said to me, what is Red Bull, like, they're stuck now? Well, they're absolutely not stuck.
They're not stuck, but
they've dropped drivers across their career.
Well,
it's just embarrassing for them because they've just signed him on for an extra 2 years beyond this one.
And now he's absolutely
nowhere. So, but there's nothing stopping them from putting him into the sister RB.
Of course there's not.
I honestly feel like if this continues, he won't even get a drive there. I imagine they'll put him into the reserve driver role.
Well, there was so much talk.
You can be paid to be in that role.
Yeah, there's so much talk across Dan and whether or not he's staying or not, and Marco's comments around that they need to go back to a junior team. I mean, if you're going to need someone to support Max, and the whole purpose of putting Dan back in was to then challenge for that seat. I mean, he did that test time in the RB19. Like, don't forget that. He did it in that.
Not in what
he's driving at the moment too. So for that criticism of come that he's not quick enough, of course he's not quick enough, because the RB doesn't know what it's doing at the moment.
Yep.
So you can't compare that. And I have no doubt if you put Dan in the RB20 that he is not 8th.
He's not driving.
He is not driving 8th.
Paris,
he's not. He is driving better than that. So, I don't know. Red Bull have got to think about that you cannot compare what Dan's in at the moment to what Sergio's in. But, like I said, honestly, for me, it's got to be second quali, it's got to be second Silverstone, or the heat's coming. Like, that is... You can't be there in amongst that group.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Our man Dan.
Points.
Good qualifying. After a really... Poor Barcelona.
Yeah, poor Barcelona.
Into a poor sprint for both drivers.
Terrible sprint for both. Nowhere.
Into a slightly improved qualifying. And Dan talked about this.
11th. Could have been 10th.
He did talk about this, that he felt like for the sprint race, they'd made mass changes before qualifying.
Yep.
Because they weren't happy with where it's at.
Yep.
He made mass changes before qualifying, and it wasn't quite enough time to work all that out.
Yep.
And so, they used the sprint race as a bit of a test run, which is sort of what we had predicted a little bit. And then all of what he learnt in that, they threw to both drivers and made improvements. Now, this is one other aspect, and I know we're sounding like biased Aussies here, but this is the other element to why Ricciardo was so important. Ricciardo has turned that team's form around by being willing to do that work in changing setups and adjusting balances.
Yeah.
Sonoda's pace even improved across the weekend, even though his race didn't sort of show it. But yeah, so the changes and the development that Ricciardo brings to that team is so important to RB at the moment.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
Without that, Sonoda is flailing at the back. He's benefiting from Ricciardo's work. He's driving better than Ricciardo across the whole season, but he's certainly benefiting from it. But we have seen the criticism of Ricciardo's been big, but it seems like it's only after he has those poor days, which is due to RB's lack of balance.
Yep.
He's had a decent result in sprint at Miami.
Yep.
Then he had a really great result at Canada.
Yep.
He's had a really great result now. These are all the last 6 races, and so it feels like he has turned it around.
Yeah.
It's just the updates didn't do any good to RB, and it felt like Ricciardo was the one working on fixing those. And so, yeah, I don't think it's all doom and gloom for Dan.
I don't think so either.
As long as he can keep the pace coming. And that's the important thing. He can't be up and down across the whole season. He's only 6 points behind his teammate at the moment. So, yeah, I think it is pretty good signs at the moment.
I really hope we don't leave Sunday night with Dan being dumped by the team, because that was a lot of the gossip over the last 7 days.
But we've heard that across the whole season.
I know.
We heard that last season.
I read that Liam's got an option that if RB don't offer him a contract, then he is free to explore elsewhere too.
And that's the challenge.
So I wonder if that's what
their challenge is at the moment is that they need to be making it sound like they're keeping Liam on, because he is going to get options from elsewhere. People are going to come knocking.
Someone will come and grab him.
And so that is the challenge for Red Bull at the moment. I would, if still biased Aussie, you would dump Dan at your peril, because I can guarantee if you put Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda in that car, next time they want to bring an update and it's not working, they're going to have to work through it. And that could be a long period of time.
And it could be a future contract for Liam too. Like what we're saying right now, it's like we're not having you for 25, but sign it for 26.
Possibly.
And then we'll see what we do. The signing of Checo is the cook in the bowl for that too, that if they hadn't have done that, you can't have three into two doesn't go. So you either want Dan, you want Sergio, or you want Liam.
Is it the worst case of panic buying you've ever heard?
It probably could be, It could be,
And then the Alpines, once again.
The Alpines, good again. Serviceable, bringing home points as well. Had it coming together. But I mean, what are you going to do now? Ocon's already been sacked.
It is.
/ we've mutually agreed to part ways, but he hasn't. He's been sacked. So. Where's Ocon going next year? Nowhere.
Haas.
Nowhere.
Probably.
He's not talking anymore.
I'm not convinced Haas are going to keep Magnussen on, so I think there's 2 seats available there. Yeah. I reckon he might be going there, but we'll wait and see.
He's not going anywhere.
Are you okay with him not going anywhere?
Yeah, absolutely. He says he's talking to other people, but he's not. So.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
It's like when you break up in a teenage relationship. Oh, no, that's fine. I know. Someone else wants to be my boyfriend.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've got a new girlfriend.
Yeah, it's fine. It's all good.
Save photo off Google. It's not a new girlfriend.
Let's go to the 3, 2, and 1.
3, 2, 1.
Driver of the year.
Oh, driver of the year. Can I just quickly mention what the hell is going on at Aston? Yikes.
Don't bring this up with Shane.
Yikes.
He will bring up the fact that Alonso can't develop a car.
Yikes. Ugh. All right, 3, 2, and 1.
So, Aston, Stroll, 13th. Alonso, 18th.
I wonder if Fernando's doing a Lewis role from last year. Just developing
I wouldn't have thought
upgrades.
So.
He could be.
He could be.
He could be doing that. We saw Lewis's massive drop of last year, and then mid-season came good. I wonder if he's doing setup work.
Possibly.
Could be.
Not if you are Shane.
No, I like to think he is. Anyway, all right. 3, 2, and 1. Oh, all right.
Go on.
3.
Yes.
I'm giving it to Oscar this weekend.
I think that's...
I really am.
I think that's decent.
I really am.
His
sprint was brilliant. I know he had the error in qualifying, but his sprint was brilliant. He came home in second. Yep. I said earlier.
I agree.
If that was car 81, then he's through.
He's getting 3 points from me too.
Good. I like that.
There's talk that we're going to bring in the 3, 2, and 1s from Fan Frenzy.
Okay.
So when we're recording that, I'm going to add everyone else's 3, 2, and 1s.
Okay. Busy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, awesome. 2 to Hulkenberg.
We're not going back on that too. I'm not going through the old ones. I don't do that.
You're just going from like...
We're starting from round 11, yeah.
All right, 2 to Hulkenberg.
2 to Hulk?
2 to Hulkenberg.
Tell me more about Hulkenberg.
Just, again, brilliant qualifying, coming home in 6th. He is red hot at the moment. And he is very much driver in form in the grid. So, yeah, it's consistent in something that really shouldn't be doing that well. But maybe it should be.
How do I argue with that?
I don't know.
I don't.
Okay. 2.
All right. 4 for him then, because 2 from me.
All right. I can't give any points to Max. I can't give any points to Lando. I can't give any points to George, because he was still quarter of a second per lap off. Like, I know he won. I know those 2 led for most of it. But they both DNF'd, and so I can't give him points. And I'm not going to give it to George because, let's be honest, he didn't race to first. He fell across the line in first. Science wasn't brilliant either, so I'm going to give 1 to Dan.
Oh, I don't think we've ever been fully agreed in points in their whole careers.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm down
Brilliant.
with that.
They just stay with the rest of the weekend. So, yeah.
No, I tend to agree. I think he turned it around a what was looking like an interesting weekend into a fine result.
Just missed Q3.
Oh, and only just...
Why nothing?
Only just couldn't pip Magnussen as well. He was spending all his time defending the Alpines behind him, and he very nearly got Magnussen towards the end.
It was like
because
100th of a second, and he
so
misfires nothing in it. So, so close.
I'm with you. Oh, excellent. Now we can unleash dud of the day.
I've got just a smorgasbord of duds for you. So I'm just going to list through them.
Lay them out.
And then I'm just going to let you choose.
Okay.
Like, you here, if you're listening, like, which one resonates with you the most.
Okay.
All right. So first dud of the day is our blue line for track limits.
Yep.
I hate you. It didn't work. You're not doing anything. Stop.
Yep.
Stop with the extra lines.
Okay.
So that's the first dud of the day. All right. Take that on board if you want to take that on board. Ted's post-race chat with Christian Horner and just the sass that he threw at him.
Oh, no, I think that's journalism.
It was very much, hey, and it was real like, I love Ted, but even the tone of voice in which he approached Christian, it was real... Like,
I think it was my dad that said that his TED notebook was he couldn't wait to say, like that. I told you so.
It was like that. It's like, ha, come here. Like, look what you've just done. And I hated everything about it. I really did. It was the opposite of what I saw from Stella.
Where that comes from is that Red Bull got on the attack with Ted.
Yep.
About the comments Ted was making. Yep. And I think Ted
right.
felt like this was his...
opportunity.
This is what I was talking about. But this is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Of course it's back.
Yeah, no.
And as a journalist, you don't need to bring that.
He needs to be neutral. Like Bernie's neutral. Like you have to. I don't know. I didn't like it. I think the tone that it was delivered to, the comments that he made as well. I thought Christian Horner played it beautifully, and he was like, I'm not having this. Like it wasn't an interview or journalism. It was, you're right. It was like, haha, come here.
No, so
look what you've just done. I didn't
felt
like it.
The after race was fine.
I
didn't
like it.
Anyway,
so that's my other one.
Okay,
all right. Next stud is driver of the day voting. It had just no.
If Norris,
it was not Lando.
If Norris pulls off,
if he pulls off the move,
the win,
fair enough.
Yeah,
but this is.
Even though it wasn't his fault?
No, like you can see that driver of the day of the last 3 weeks has been voted by 15-year-olds.
Even though it wasn't his fault?
Doesn't matter. He was not driver of the day.
He didn't pull off the win, I guess.
He didn't pull off the win. He lost positions in the sprint. I know the sprint wasn't part of it either.
Yep.
Didn't qualify on pole.
Okay.
No.
No.
Yep. No. Dan was better. K-Mag was better. Oscar was better. Sainz was better. Mercedes as a whole were better as well.
I think it's a little harsh. But
there are 4 or 5 options before I'm thinking about it. As I said, 15-year-olds on their phones before T voted on.
He didn't cause the crash.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
What is the chance that Sunday afternoon, Lando is driver of the day next week?
Oh, it will be him or Lewis.
It is literally, you can literally put your money on it now. Like, all credit to McLaren. They have captured, like, the young audience as a team. But it is absolutely driver of the day.
Okay.
So they're my they're my 3.
For me, it's the FIA.
Yep, stewards.
Yep.
Stewards.
You can't put in gravel and then ignore its purpose.
Yep.
I just don't understand. You put the gravel in and it can completely control that situation on that corner.
Yep.
And if cars start running into it, then the cars start running into it. That's just the way it is. That's what the purpose of the gravel. There is no need whatsoever to be giving out penalties for track limits when you've got a limiting factor.
Yep.
And so, please, for God's sakes, make that your ruling.
Yes.
And bring it into all the tracks because it's going to fix all sorts of places.
Can I talk really quickly, just as part of the duds for our stewards? Can I talk about where it sort of all kicked off at the weekend?
Go on.
Which was FP1.
Oh, yes.
And not policing your race director's notes from the get-go. This is where we fell into issues again for the shoe. So I've got them here in front of me because this was the thing. So race director's notes for Austria was that the fast lane, which was the tarmac, was to be broken by the second white line.
Yep.
All right. So we saw 3 instances across FP1 where Haas and Hülkenberg blended into the traffic. And the ruling was, and it's in the race director's note, you can download this, the rulings were that your front tyre must cross the second white line into the fast lane. Mm-hmm. You are not permitted to blend into the queue if you do not have part of your tyre across. If you stay behind that line before you hit the fast lane, you go to the back of the queue. We saw 3 instances from Haas and Hülkenberg where they wandered out into the pit lane, into the slow lane. They did not cross the white line into the fast lane, but then still blended their way into traffic.
It's interesting though, because what do?
You stay there. You stay behind the queue, or if you want to go into the blend line,
but they
cross
could be,
it
because of their position. If that queue's 6 deep, which is about what it was, and they could be sitting there waiting for that queue to disappear.
You need to be better at getting out of the garage.
For 30 seconds, they could be sitting there.
Yep.
Perez from the other end of the pit lane can come out 20 seconds later, make his way down the pit lane, and they've got to wait for Perez.
The thing that gripes me about this is that Lewis tiptoed across that white line into the pit lane. And I mean, lost it on a slide and went across. If he doesn't slide, he didn't endanger anyone into the pit lane. That's what he talked about.
That's where the 5 second penalty
That's where his penalty came from.
Yeah.
So if we can be so black and white on that, where it is a crossing of a line,
but for me,
you can't put notes in and not police it.
Well, they can't put notes in and police it anyway because they're not actually part of the regulations.
The literal wording says, furthermore, it is noted that during a free practice session, quali or sprint session, a car driving on the inner lane parallel to the fast lane will not be considered to have blended into the fast lane.
Yeah, which is stopping them from driving along. That's a different matter.
You can't.
So for me, Hülkenberg was there way before Perez had arrived.
But he didn't cross the line. And all he had to do was cross the line. But he had to. No, but he had to. That's what I'm saying.
I understand that.
Yep.
But he couldn't cross the line because there was a car there.
So you wait your turn.
I think their ruling, I think their directions were wrong. And I saw it.
Yeah,
I saw it, and I understand people were there, but he was waiting in line well before Perez got there.
And that's
and while he wasn't considered in line because he didn't get his nose across,
has to get his nose across.
I think that's fair enough. There wasn't enough room for a nose to go in there.
I didn't mind it. If you're going to give leniency to that, like if we saw, I mean, one of the other notes was you can't do practice starts in the pit lane.
Yep.
If someone does a practice start, they're going to hit him. Lewis crossed that line unintentionally by a millimetre. We hit him. We hit Oscar with the most minor, step across the line. If we're going to go yes to all of those, and then you make notes on another specific ruling and you're going to go, don't worry about that one. This is where we get so frustrated with the rulings and all the notes and stuff like that. Like you can't be lenient to one and then hit them black and white with the other ones too. It's either yes or it's no. Because you could very easily have said to Lewis, nah, you're right. We saw that you lost control of it. It wasn't intentional. It didn't endanger anyone. Play on. You can see the same with the pit boxes as well. You can see the same with Oscar.
The Oscars and Lewis's weren't race directors.
No, I know, but it's still a ruling by the FIA,
but whereas the one in the pit lane it's about the race director trying to organise traffic.
Yeah.
Different. I didn't mind it. I thought it was, and I thought it's a little bit too tricky to make that ruling when Haas are just sitting there waiting for everyone else to come out. And I think Haas had the right to say, no, we were sitting here. If we poked our nose out, we would have been touching another car. You don't give us any other options. We were here first. I'm fine with it. I think the race director's ruling was inconsiderate anyway. F1.5, are we up to date?
We are ready to go.
Oh, well done.
Okay. I'm very excited by this one. We talked about this last week. Who's going to lead after Silverstone? Do you remember who you backed?
I think I backed Yuki.
I think you did back Yuki. Yeah. I think I went Gasly or Ocon. I can't remember. One of the Alpine boys. Anyway, it was. It's last week. It closed. It's closed even further again. All right. So last week's leader. Let's just quickly go back to the leader of last week. Yuki led at the end of last round, which was followed by Hülkenberg and K-Mac.
How far off was Hülkenberg?
Oh, not much. I think it was only a handful of points as well. So anyway, so we're back. We got the top 3 order has reshuffled again. This is what I'm loving about this year. It's just back and forth. And that sort of little block of drivers that we had down the sort of mid-range have really closed in too. All right, so let's have a look at where we are for this week, which is 2/3 of the way through triple header. Logan Sargent, just the solitary point again. His qualifying was good. Can I just throw that out there? Like, he out-qualified Albon.
Okay.
I'm just saying that. Williams still sucked, didn't they? Sargent, 39 points. Just kicking around. So, that's okay. That's fine. Bottas, behind there, 63 for Valtteri. And then close quarters is Zhou on 87. And then we're looking at Albon in 91.
Yep.
So they're your 4 that are just in double figures.
Back markers.
Right? They're your back markers at the moment. Yeah, they're just sort of floating around doing their thing. All right. So from there, we start getting into triple figures, and this is where it gets really, really tight. So Dan had a really great weekend, finished 3rd in our standings. 15 points for him. He's up to 119.
Yep.
Only 3 points ahead is Pierre Gasly on 121.
Yep.
Then we move into tied Ocon and K-Mag on 123 for both of them.
That is close.
So that is actually tied. That's tied for 3rd. Both of them. In 2nd place is Yuki this weekend. Only had the lonely 8 points.
Yep.
Puts him on 163. And Hulkenberg is our winner.
Leader.
So hasn't had a winner for a round for 6 weeks now. 5 weeks he's had a win. His last round win was 5 weeks ago. So he takes home the full maximum 25 points. And he is back in the lead on 181.
What's the difference to what was Yuki on?
So Yuki's on 163.
Ooh, okay.
Hulkenberg 181.
Ooh.
Then you've got K-Mag and you've got Ocon tied on 123. 2 points adrift is Gasly on 121.
Yep. And
then only another handful of points adrift is Dan on 119. So that is close.
It is close.
That is close. There are 6 drivers in this.
The benefit of the good thing about this this series too is any of those drivers can have a DNF at any point in time because of the nature of where they start races and the teams that they're in. And so, it's going to be on. It's going to be on for the whole season, I feel. How exciting.
How exciting, F1.5. Brilliant. Anyway, looking forward to next week. I feel, in a couple of days actually, feel like the Alpines could make good ground here. Hulk needs a good result. K-Mag needs a good result. Yuki has a drop-off. Dan has a good result. It's just, it's up for grabs.
Yes.
Up for grabs again.
Okay.
Very good.
Very good. All right. Well, that's the end of our show.
It's fantasy time. Let's get into fantasy. Thanks to Chris at Dr. Auto Art. Are we having Chris on? You've reached out to Chris? Featuring Chris next week. Pre.
I think, he hasn't confirmed being available for the time.
All right, I'm excited to hear from Chris. Thanks to Chris at Dr. Auto Art for your amazing sponsorship for this year. First, second, and third, taking home a brilliant print prize of your choosing.
I'm having people around this weekend for my 40th birthday, and I can't wait for them to see the artwork.
Fantastic.
In the studio.
Yeah, very good. So thanks to Chris. Check out his Instagram, Facebook, Redbubble. Subscribe to his email for discounts and all those types of goodies. Don't forget, if you're a MotoGP fan, you're a NASCAR fan, does some really good artworks of that too. So thanks, Chris. I look forward to hearing from you next week. Maybe if you got a question for Chris.
Oh,
if you got a question for Chris, if you got a question specifically for Chris, whether it be like around his artwork, maybe being at Silverstone.
Yep.
If you've got a question that is specific to Chris, please throw it in Fan Frenzy for this week, or just like DM us and we'll do it. We won't do it separately. We'll do it as part of that. Maybe we can get Chris to respond to those. So
I like it.
Anyway, look forward to hearing from Chris.
Fantastic.
All right. We know that it was a sprint round. We all, well, I say all, but most of us made that conscious choice to put your Limitless on. Let's go through the round weekend.
Okay.
It was my good self who led all comers. So first place to me. And how excited were you when I told you the other day?
I was.
You were beside yourself.
Yes.
And again, that's what everyone wants with fantasy. They want to know that one of us is doing well, and thank God it's me. So I led all comers with 302 points. This is how it looked, and it could have been even better than what I had it. I had the double on Max for 50. Lando came home in 13. I had Oscar for 42, George for 43, Lewis for 23, and I had McLaren for 55 and Mercedes for 76. So that was my team for the week. I had 302. Coming in second place behind me is Royce Peters with 296. Paul Cook was in third place on 282. Gavin Fenner.
Paul Cook's team name is very good, isn't it? What is it again?
Wake me up before you go, Joe.
Oh, I love that.
It's very good.
I do like that.
Gavin Fenner, newcomer to the top rankings. 277 points from Gavin. Laws van der Vee on 273 in 5th. James Ward in 6th, 268. While I love giving you heaps for it, you weren't garbage, but you finished in 7th place.
I appreciate that.
On 260 points. So have a look at your team in a second.
Adam Hughes, close to a compliment as I get.
Adam Hughes on 254. Farees have his on 253. And Danielson on 245. So it's just the consistent sort of runners there. So that's what we looked at. Your team for the weekend, if we look into it really quickly here, you had...
I went with the Ferrari boys.
You did go Ferrari.
You went with the
I went with the Mercedes and Mercedes too. I did have Red Bull sitting in there with the Mercedes boys.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought, no. After I saw what Checo was doing in FP1, I quickly dumped him. So you had Sainz for 28, Max for 50, Oscar for 42, Lando for 13, Charles for 16. That's a good save from Charles. You had 56 for the Red Bull and 55 for the McLaren. So that's what it looks like for our Austrian Grand Prix weekend. And if we go to the overall leaderboard, top 10 at the moment, Dean Holt leads all comers on 2,565. Chloe Anderson sticking close there, only 40 points adrift-ish. 2,522. Farees on 2,520. Andrew Taylor, 2,515. Laws van der Vee in 2,500. That's a nice, neat score in 5th place. Then you've got Roman Merrick, Jolien Dyer, David Rojas in 6th, 7th and 8th. Myself, I'm back in the top 10. I'm 9th at the moment. 2,353. And Adam Hughes chasing me down in 10th at 2,320. And if we just scroll down, we don't have to scroll too far this week. You're in 17th, 2,059. So that's all right.
Yeah, thank you.
That's pretty good. You're just good on you for just, you had an all right weekend. You making any changes to your team?
But yeah, I probably should.
Yes, I've made an instant change. I'm just parking Ferrari for the time being, and I've brought Mercedes in as a constructor.
What's the price difference?
There's quite a hefty price difference, actually, there. If you're looking at, let me do a quick team manage to have a look. So the Ferrari will cost you 23 million. Mercedes will cost you 22.5 million there. So
That's not a big difference.
It's not a big difference, but they're only 16% of teams have picked Mercedes, with 38 choosing Ferrari. So it's not a popular choice at the moment. However, 19% of people have Aston. That shocks me.
That might have been set at the start and forget.
Could have been set, could have been set and forget. So look, honestly, you probably want to jump on Mercedes now because they're going to go up in value, and then you can probably little bit of money making to be had. I feel with Mercedes, they're doing pretty well at the moment. So you'd be silly not to grab Mercedes now.
I'd love to get rid of Albon, but there's just nothing to bring in.
That's it. I
need some value.
You need to grab some money while you can so that you can make those changes. Because right now, Alex is, you need to make a change with Alex, because the last time I checked, and I quickly checked now, I'm pretty sure he is the last ranked driver in the entire grid. He is. No. Do you know how many points he has contributed to your team for the entire year?
Well, is it? No.
0 points. So if you have wanted to make no points on a driver, Alex Albon, 48%, no points. He'll cost you $8.5 million for nothing. Logan is better value. He is $5.3 million, and he will have earned you across the season a single solitary point. A point. So that's what you're looking at there. Yeah, there's not a lot of value there too. Even the Stake Salva boys, 7.7 and 7.8. So yeah, you need to find some money there, but it might come at the cost of a constructor too. And the Haas boys are starting to become out of reach as well, because I think K-Mag, 10.3. K-Mag will cost you. Hulk will cost you 9.2.
Yeah, I've already got Hulk in.
They're both up $500,000 for both of them. So yes, I'm sticking with the Alpine boys. So I'm sticking with the driver lineup, but yes, I'm just parking Ferrari at the time being. I'm going to make some points here with Mercedes, and then if Ferrari come good, hopefully they'll be on the same amount of money, or Mercedes will cost me more, and then
off you go.
I can do a quick change back. So yeah, so Lando, Gasly, Dan, Yuki, Ocon, McLaren, and Mercedes is who I'll going to roll with those, and obviously the double DRS drive on Lando too. Anyway, so that is fantasy.
Fantastic. Do I bring in George Russell or Lewis Hamilton?
Whoa. Who are you swapping out?
Sainz.
6 one, half a dozen the other, isn't it? You'd probably go on form. You'd probably go George.
Or do I just keep Science?
Well, it's how much is Science going to cost you?
I've already got him.
You already got him. How much does he cost?
He's 21.9.
And how much is George?
21.4.
Well, I would put George in, because then if he has another good weekend, he's going to go up $500,000. And then you can make some money, and you can get Science back, and it's a bit of a free hit, and you might bankroll and make a little bit more money too. Maybe. Have you got Oscar? I'd be looking at Oscar.
I've got Oscar. I've got Carlos, Oscar, Ricardo, Zhou, and Hulkenberg with the Mercedes and McLaren at the moment.
That's not too bad. Not too bad. Maybe you need to drop a driver to have,
I need Max, that's what I need.
You do need Max. Maybe you need
30 million, holy moly.
Yeah, he's just going to keep going up too. So it's either you got him now or you haven't.
Yeah, you haven't. I certainly haven't.
Yeah. Anyway.
All good.
Very good.
Excellent. That is fantasy. And look forward to talking to Chris next episode. Any news you want to talk about?
No real news at the moment. Driver market
Who
looks
was it
to be...
that Aston picked up from Mercedes? This is going to be great podcasting. Oh, it's going to come to me. Technical. He's become the CEO of Aston Martin. See, no good for podcasting this, but anyway. Exactly right.
I have a friend that plays golf better
it's like pool.
as he has a beer.
Andy Cow.
Andy Cow.
Or Cowell?
Okay. Yep.
Cowell. So he was part of, I think he was part of Mercedes. So he stepped into the new role as CEO. Once again, a few more people just coming across and understanding the sport.
Jack Dillon's going to run FP1 as well for
Is
Alpine 2.
Is he this weekend?
Yep, and Williams will be running... Who are they running? I can't pronounce his name.
That's important because there are a few other drivers that could have been taking that drive, I think, because he probably didn't really get much time in the car last time out. They're going to gift him another session, which is good. So, it is looking good for the man come next year.
So, Franco Colapinto. Butchered that.
Colapinto.
Butchered that. Sorry, Franco.
Franco's a good name, though.
Colapinto? Franco Colapinto?
Show me.
Franco Colapinto. I think I got about, Didn't do well on that. Sorry. So he'll be taking over FP1 in the Williams as well.
Very good. Excellent. Oh, well, look forward to it. Love Silverstone. Love the race. It's usually provides something. Feel like it can provide something nice for this one as well. Time management's key at this place. We'll get stuck into it and enjoy it. I'm going to have to get some big screens on, I think, for this weekend. So looking forward to it and look forward to catching up with you again next week. Do we want to try and record during the day again next
Maybe
week?
We could. We are on holidays.
How have you felt about this? We'll have to talk to Chris, see what time suits him best. We might have to be nice and early if we're going to do it. Anyway, we'll work through those bits and pieces when the time comes. But until then, enjoy your racing, everybody, and keep an eye out for Fan Frenzy coming out not long after this. Goodbye.